Stone Cold, the Hellraiser is back!
Here we go! Evolution of the Shield!
John Cena versus the Showstopper!
Hulk Hogan and The Rock in the same ring!
You will never take my place at the head of the table!
Undertaker! On the Hell's Gate submission! Oh my God! What?
My God, Michaels! Just kick Cena's head off!
The Monday Night Wars have come to WrestleMania!
It'll be The Rock! It'll be Austin one-on-one!
Third and five to the Undertaker!
Do you believe in miracles?
The streak is over!
Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to WWE Retro on the WWE podcast on a Friday, April 14th. First time in 3 weeks you're hearing from me. And obviously, if we want to go over a bit what's gone on, the first week that I missed was a scheduled and strategic skip. As you know, that we oftentimes or always do not record Retro on the weeks of pay-per-views, or now known as premium live events. And then those who live in Quebec or perhaps even Eastern Ontario, last Wednesday to be exact, we got hit with a massive ice storm that knocked out power for numerous days. I was one of the lucky ones, and I was out without it for just about, I would say, 55 hours or so. And then even by the time that the power came back, I had to go do a brand new thing of groceries, make sure the house was okay. So last week, obviously, I could not record due to extenuating circumstances, but finally I am back in the saddle and ready to give you a brand new Retro. And I know that this past Monday with Matt, I previewed covering JBL's run as the WWE champion, and we will get to that. And I promise you, next week we will cover JBL's WWE Championship reign, because I don't think it was talked about enough. But I want to go back today and cover the Royal Rumble from 2005, because it really came to my attention for two things. Number one was seeing Shane's quad blow out at WrestleMania. And obviously that has a direct relation to something that went down at the Royal Rumble 05. And we'll get to that later on in the show. But more so than that, it was because I watched A&E's documentary of Rivals, of Triple H versus Batista. And this was basically the catalyst to that. Not to say that their rivalry started here. They probably started planting seeds going back to November-ish in 2004. But the outcome of 2005's Royal Rumble is what really put things into fifth gear. And not just on the Raw side of things, which was Triple H and Batista, but on the SmackDown side of things, which coincidentally fell right during the run of John Bradshaw Layfield. So this was a card that, in my opinion, was probably showcasing one of the best eras of wrestling. I think for me, 2004 was the absolute pinnacle of WWE. That's just how I see it, because of just my age, how I was starting to understand everything. But 2005 is when you really started seeing a change of the guard, and you were entering the twilight period of the Ruthless Aggression era. Now, the Ruthless Aggression era, in my opinion, would probably last another two and a half-ish years. But 2005 is where you really started to see some significant changes go into the product. And we were moving out of Ruthless Aggression and slowly but surely barreling towards what we would come to know as PG. So obviously back then, or maybe not obvious to many, but obvious to me because I was around and watching this, it started off with Sunday Night Heat, as every pay-per-view did back then. And we had Maven defeat Rhino in a singles match for 7 minutes and 1 second. Then you had Edge defeat Shawn Michaels in the opener of the pay-per-view in 18 and a half minutes. And I covered New Year's Revolution a few weeks ago, I believe. And that was kind of the kickoff to the rivalry of Edge and Shawn Michaels that would culminate in this singles match at the Royal Rumble in 2005. And you want to talk about a way to really kick off a pay-per-view? Edge and Shawn Michaels is a way to do it in almost 20 minutes. And this was kind of like the beginning of Edge's ascent. And that's, I believe, the last the last retro that we covered here was Edge's rise to the main event. And this was one of the stepping stones into getting him towards eventually winning Money in the Bank just a few short months after this pay-per-view. And eventually, in a year's time, winning the WWE Championship. And then, in one of the more forgettable and forgotten, that might seem a bit redundant, does it not, feuds of The Undertaker, we have him go against Heidenreich in a casket match that went 13 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, Heidenreich was kind of like a mental patient almost. Like, he kind of had like a, I don't want to say like a Nazi vibe because obviously that's very sensitive, but it seemed like as WWE did back then, they were really kind of pushing the boundaries on maybe portraying Heidenreich as like a throwback SS soldier from the days of Nazi Germany. And obviously he had the German name to back it up, but he really kind of played like a psychotic loose cannon with that type of background. At least that was my impression of it way back when. And like we said, we're talking, 18 years ago now. So a lot of things were more acceptable back then. And Heidenreich and The Undertaker had kind of been building a feud going back to No Mercy in October when Heidenreich costed the Undertaker in a WWE Championship match against JBL in I believe it was a last ride match, which was you would have to put your opponent in the back of a hearse. So this culminates to Undertaker versus Heidenreich at the Royal Rumble. And somewhere along the lines of the pay-per-view, you see Heidenreich and Gene Snitsky. And Gene Snitsky at this time was kind of like Heidenreich's counterpart, but over on Monday Night Raw, come face to face and somewhat come to an agreement of sorts with maybe Gene Snitsky looking to lend a hand to Heidenreich. Now, just as coincident was have it, Gene Snitsky was currently feuding with no other than Kane on Monday Night Raw. So that's when Heidenreich and Undertaker's match came to a head and Snitsky got involved. It was a pretty cool interference to come in on behalf of The Undertaker. So Kane comes in to even the odds here, and just like that, it goes back to a one-on-one match between Heidenreich and The Undertaker, and The Undertaker ultimately comes out victorious, just like we know he would. And Heidenreich goes on to reform the Legion of Doom, playing the role of Hawk with Animal, and he ends up having a very forgettable run, unfortunately for him, because I did think he was a decent talent, just a very bizarre gimmick that Vince McMahon gave him. Then, earlier in the night, when they were picking their entrance numbers, and that's what they used to do back then, it was pretty funny, is that they would have like that cage where they would spin, and they would have those plastic balls that would come out. We had Ric Flair and Eddie Guerrero pick their choices at the same time. Eddie from SmackDown, Ric Flair from Raw. Eddie was visibly upset when he picked his, and Ric Flair was visibly ecstatic when he picked his. When Eddie left, it turned out that he had stolen Ric Flair's number. This ultimately leads to Teddy Long, then GM of SmackDown, catching up with Eddie Guerrero to try and sort everything out, which led to a pretty funny exchange between Eddie, Ric Flair, and Evolution.
Listen, I've got a job to do, and I'm not going to tolerate this. Now, I know that you've got Ric Flair's number. Let me have it. What number are you talking about? Hold on a minute, players. I'm trying to straighten this out right now. Hold on just a minute. Eddie, come on. Give me Ric's number. Phone number? Eddie, give me Ric Flair's number. Cough it up, trumpet fiend. Oh, look, that's good. It's real good. Where's your number? What's the matter with you? Hey, just a minute. Hold on. What? What are they, Holmes? You know I'm lucky, man. Eddie. Give it up, dog. What? My wallet? Look at that wallet. My wallet. Get it. Watch where you're from. See where I'm looking. Just a minute. Get it on. Get here. Get up. Hey, we didn't make it one look through. Sorry about the confusion. Better run. It's Evolution's night. We're gonna show everybody. It's our night. I'm on my way to Bishop's office to get my number. No. We're gonna go over this stuff with Orton right now. We need to talk about that. Right. I'm gonna get my number. I'll be right back. Hey, I said we need to go over this stuff with Orton. And I said, get your number later. I'm gonna go get my number, and I'll come right back. Now. Whoa. Come on. Evolution. It's about you beating Orton. It's about winning the Royal Rumble. One for all for one, man. Come on, lighten up. Deep breath. Come on. It's right. Come on, champ. Come on. It's Evolution. Come on. Unity. Together. Here we go. Business, huh, man? It's all right. Come on, tell me.
So you get a bit of comedy there, a reminder of just how great of an entertainer Eddie Guerrero was. Hilarious. Also stealing Ric Flair's wallet, which was just absolutely hilarious, of course. And then you get some further cracks in the foundation of Batista versus Triple H, which there is a argument to be made that it was one of the best stories told, if not the best story told, during the Ruthless Aggression era, or honestly ever. What an absolute amazing build. Highly suggest you either go listen to my show Rivalries, back when it was Rivalries, before we turned it into Retro, or A&E's documentary on, or their Rivals series of covering Triple H versus Batista. On the SmackDown side of things that night, you had a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. Kurt Angle versus The Big Show versus the champion JBL. And during this time, you had Big Show as the only babyface in the match. Probably the top babyface on the on SmackDown, which is saying something on a roster that had Eddie Guerrero and The Undertaker, soon to be John Cena, soon to be Rey Mysterio in terms of main event caliber. Big Show was positioned as the top babyface. Kurt Angle and JBL were both positioned as top heels. Kurt Angle had his henchmen in Mark Jindrak and Luther Reigns. JBL had the Cabinet in Orlando Jordan and the Basham brothers. And leading into this pay-per-view, there was a SmackDown where both factions that Angle had and JBL had combined, and it was a 7-on-1 beatdown of the Big Show, which led into this triple threat match. And this was a pretty good triple threat match, I have to say. But the way it ended was in classic fashion of how JBL won the vast majority of his matches as champion. JBL, again, like Michael Cole emphatically said, he stole another damn title match, and we'll get into it more next week. But this was kind of like the recipe for JBL's title run. And you get interference from not only his faction, but here you get interference from Kurt Angle's faction to occupy the Big Show when it just looks like he has the match won. And then they are able to slide JBL in, hit the clothesline on Kurt Angle, and solidify the WWE Championship retainment. Then we go to the Raw main event. Triple H versus Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this was a match that, I mean, it was a culmination of a rivalry and a program that I think that it's in first carnation, which is, this is what it was. You know, we're 5 months removed from Evolution turning on Randy Orton of Triple H and Randy Orton. And obviously, over the course of their respective careers, specifically in 2009 or 2008, I forget exactly when it was. I think it was 2009. They would have a historic rivalry when Triple H was the babyface and Randy Orton was the heel, when Orton was a leading legacy. But in the first version of Triple H versus Randy Orton, it was very, very disappointing just because Randy Orton's first run as a babyface had just completely fallen flat on its face. You get Randy Orton lose this match against Triple H. Triple H retains the WWE Championship, or the World Heavyweight Championship. And I think that in a lot of ways it's forgotten because nobody thinks back fondly of this period of Randy Orton. The period of Randy Orton as a babyface from SummerSlam 04 until Royal Rumble 05, because he would turn heel shortly thereafter this, was just a complete failure. You know, he wins the championship at SummerSlam from Benoit. He retains it. He defends it against Triple H at Unforgiven in 2004 and drops it immediately. Continues on as the top babyface over on SmackDown, aligning himself with the likes of Jericho and Benoit and whatnot, but it just didn't work. It was like sticking around a square peg into a round hole. And lo and behold, that is exactly what it was. And they would pull the chute and completely flip the script and have him turn back heel in time for WrestleMania 21 to face The Undertaker. And obviously they would have one of the better rivalries of probably Randy Orton's career. And honestly, you can make the case Undertaker's career, specifically after he turned back to the Dead Man. Because at this point in time, you have to remember, The Undertaker had only been back as the Dead Man character for just about a year's time. So this was still refreshed in the minds of fans. Then you get the Royal Rumble match. The Royal Rumble match, where the theme of this back then was, it was like a backroom brawl or like a street fight, like a back alley fight. I remember they had commercials and it was almost like a musical of everyone like getting ready to fight, Raw on one side, SmackDown on the other. I'd highly suggest you guys go watch the commercial for this. And this was a great Royal Rumble. Honestly, guys, this was a Royal Rumble that had some very, very memorable moments. You had it start with Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero, two of the best in-ring competitors at this time. Two guys who closed the show at the WrestleMania the prior year, winning their respective world championships on the brands they were on. And then you had the infamous moment of Daniel Puder getting some tough love, where he comes into the ring and legitimately gets the crap beat out of him. And I mean legitimately, it was a shoot of Benoit, Guerrero, and then after Bob Holly coming in and just absolutely wrecking this poor guy's chest. And I don't think you ever heard from him again. Daniel Puder winning the Tough Enough, getting embarrassed by three veterans in the Royal Rumble, and then you never see him again. You have Edge and Shawn Michaels come in. It was an absolutely great Royal Rumble. And one of the things that they did in this Royal Rumble is set up storylines going into WrestleMania. And one of the some big matches that went into WrestleMania was Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels. And Kurt Angle, who had obviously lost out in the WWE Championship match, had stolen Nunzio's number to be an entrant into the Rumble. And when Kurt Angle came in, he came in like a bat out of hell, but he also was abruptly thrown out. And the man to throw him out, or literally kick him out, was Shawn Michaels, who sweet chin musicked him over the top rope, eliminating Kurt Angle and crushing his dreams of getting into a world championship match at WrestleMania. But that was something that did not sit too well with SmackDown's Kurt Angle as he seeked revenge on Raw's HBK. So Kurt Angle snaps, assaults Shawn Michaels, takes him out of contention for the rest of the Royal Rumble, and hence was the build or the catalyst to their eventual match at WrestleMania, one of the better WrestleMania matches of all time, and their eventual rivalry as it would spill into the summertime as Kurt Angle would get drafted over to Monday Night Raw, and they would be able to continue it. I believe their rematch was at Vengeance 2005. Then we get to the final two. Batista of Raw, John Cena of SmackDown, two of the biggest up-and-comers in the company at this time. And I think everyone knows about the infamous controversial finish that led to Vince McMahon appearing and coming down to the ring to figure out just what the hell was going on.
Chairman of the WWE, Mr. McMahon, does not look happy, and that's not a shocker. Who is it? Let's see it yet. Referees are pleading their case of what they saw. Quite a conundrum. Ladies and gentlemen, per order of the chairman, Mr. McMahon, he has ordered that this match be restarted. Well, that sounds good. That's fair with me. I think that is fair. No, I thought Cena won, but I think that is fair. But it doesn't really matter what you and I think. Yeah, you're right about that, but come on, Cena, fight out of this. So it's down to Cena and Batista, the final two. The match is Come on, John. Cena going for the FU, but not to be. No, Batista. Batista. Overpowering John Cena. No. Shouting Buster. No. Batista beats Cena. Batista. The exclamation point! The winner of the single It was not without controversy! But by God, we know now who's going to the main event at WrestleMania 2! No doubt about it, Batista's going! Great Royal Rumble, great matchup!
So, I mean, to this day, I'm still not sure if, like what the plan was. I think the way it went down was a mess up. Obviously, Vince McMahon running down to the ring and blowing out both of his quads and then literally sitting there like a little kid in the corner of the ring directing traffic was hilarious. But what makes this Rumble so special, in my opinion, was that you had all this controversy, all these bleep ups, if you will, and yet it still goes down as one of the better Rumbles in my mind. And obviously Batista winning, that punches his ticket to the main event of WrestleMania, where he would end up going on to face Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship. You have John Cena, the runner-up, but he would eventually become the number one contender for Bradshaw's WWE Championship. And it was the catapult for both these men into the main event scene. And all in all, just a great pay-per-view. You know, you set up Kurt Angle versus John Cena or against Shawn Michaels. You get to play off of Edge and Shawn Michaels in that Royal Rumble match. I think Edge had a really good showing in this as well. I would highly suggest to go back and watch this Royal Rumble because it just had so many storylines intertwined in it, and not without its botches, but it still had a very memorable finish. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed covering Royal Rumble 2005. As always, you can get me on Twitter at ADaMarco25. You can get Matt on Twitter at wrestling_audio, or you can email him each and every week for the WWE podcast mailbag. It's good to be back, guys. Sorry for the 2-week hiatus. I will talk to you Monday with Matt for the current state of WWE, and I'll be back here next week to talk to you about JBL's run with WWE Championship in 2004. Take care, guys. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be talking next week.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.